B2E là viết tắt của Business to Employee. B2E là mô hình thương mại điện tử giữa doanh nghiệp với người lao động, hay đây là mô hình thương mại trong nội bộ của một công ty. Trong đó doanh nghiệp tổ chức phân phối các dịch vụ, thông tin hay sản phẩm cho các nhân viên. Giá bán của doanh nghiệp cho nhân viên có thể được chiết khấu. Doanh nghiệp sẽ liên lạc với nhân viên chủ yếu qua mạng Internet. Thứ hai, về đặc trưng. Mô hình B2E giúp cho doanh nghiệp giảm nhiều gánh nặng về công tác hành chính. Mô hình B2E thúc đẩy nhân viên làm việc hiệu quả hơn, trung thành với công ty. Mô hình B2E làm cho nhân viên thấy mình là một thành viên tích cực của tổ chức, từ đó làm tăng năng suất lao động của nhân viên. Nhân viên dễ dàng tìm kiếm thông tin về doanh nghiệp cũng như chia sẻ thông tin trong nội bộ doanh nghiệp. 3. Về phương thức. Phương thức thu hút nhân viên. Đó là quảng cáo, bán hàng, các chương trình giảm giá chỉ dành cho nhân viên, chính sách quản lý bảo hiểm trực tuyến. Thông báo phổ biến doanh nghiệp, cung ứng các yêu cầu trực tuyến, báo cáo lợi ích cho nhân viên, trợ cấp cho nhân viên. Phương thức tương tác. Phương thức tương tác trong B2E, các ứng dụng trực tuyến qua Internet, giao diện Internet của công ty. Phương thức hỗ trợ nhân viên truy cập các trang web hoặc ứng dụng dành riêng cho họ. Các trang web và ứng dụng đó bao gồm các sản phẩm hoặc dịch vụ của công ty với giá dành riêng cho nhân viên. Ngoài ra, nhân viên có thể cập nhật cơ hội thăng tiến và thông tin nhân sự, bảng lương, chương trình đào tạo trực tuyến của công ty đó. Starbucks là công ty đang thực hiện kinh doanh trong môi trường thương mại điện tử B2E.
You there! Yes, you! Do you know about the Starbucks benefit called Beanstalk? No? Well, we can't have that, can we? Just a few basics will help you get the most out of your Beanstalk. Hold on, this will just take a few minutes. Did you know Starbucks began granting Beanstalk in 1991? I know! That's a long time for partners to share in the success of the company, huh? Beanstalk comes in the form of restricted stock units, or RSUs, which magically turn into shares of Starbucks stock over a 2-year period. To receive the shares, you must be continuously employed during that waiting period, which is called vesting. If you stay employed by Starbucks for at least 1 year from the grant date, with no breaks in service, you'll receive the first half of your Beanstalk grant in Starbucks shares. If you remain employed 2 years, you'll receive the second half. You following me? Excellent! For each RSU, you get 1 share of Starbucks stock, which you can hold or sell. But remember, you can't sell your Beanstalk until it vests, which is after how long? Correct! And you don't have to wait the full 2 years to sell your shares. The first half is available after 1 year has passed, and the last half after the second year. And here's what's so great about the whole thing. You don't need to enroll in Beanstalk. You are eligible for the grant, usually in November, if you were hired by Starbucks on or before May 1st and are a store partner or in an eligible non-retail position. So, there you are. Any questions? No? Good. In the next video, we'll discuss your first grant, so stay tuned. Well, hello there. I know what you're thinking. What about your first grant, right? Right. Well, I can explain it before that bruise. But first, I think we need some visual aids. There we go. Beanstalk is granted in the form of restricted stock units, or RSUs. Each year, Starbucks Board of Directors looks at a number of factors to determine if there will be a grant and how many RSUs will be granted. The value of the grant is based on your role for store partners or your annualized salary for non-retail partners as of the last day of our fiscal year. When we talk about the value of your grant, we're referring to the economic value, which is an estimate of what your beanstalk is worth at the time of the grant. We calculate the number of beanstalk RSUs by taking the economic value of your grant and dividing it by the closing price of Starbucks stock on the grant date. For example, let's say the economic value of your beanstalk grant is $500, and the closing price of Starbucks stock on the grant date is $50. So 500 divided by 50, that equals a beanstalk grant of 10 RSUs. When you receive your first beanstalk grant, you're automatically set up with a Fidelity account. Log in to netbenefits.com to view and accept your beanstalk grant. Otherwise, nothing gets rolling and it just sits there. So there you have it. You are now wise in the ways of Starbucks grants. In the next video, you'll learn about what happens when your grant vests. Sounds like your coffee's ready. Now let's get you back. See you soon. Hello again. Looks like you're ready to explore the next phase in the exciting world of beanstalk. Outstanding. Let's learn about what happens when your grant vests. So, what exactly is vesting? Vesting is basically a waiting period during which you must remain employed by Starbucks without any breaks in service. Beanstalk vest over a 2-year period, 50% on the first anniversary of the grant date and 50% on the second anniversary. If you leave the company before your RSUs vest, your grant will be canceled and no shares will be issued to you. The value of your shares you receive is based on Starbucks' closing stock price on the vest date. This is how your gain, your taxable income, is determined. Depending on where you work and/or live, you may be required to pay income tax on this gain. If that's the case, Starbucks will withhold enough of the vested shares to cover the taxes you owe. The remaining shares will be deposited into your Fidelity account shortly after the vest date. Confused? Don't be. Let's say you receive 10 RSUs. 1 year later, the first 50%, or 5 units, vest. If the closing price is $60 on the vest date, your gain, the taxable income, would be $300. Now, let's say your tax rate is 35%, and this is just an example, so yours may be different. If your gain is $300, you'd owe $105 in taxes. 2 shares would be used to cover the taxes due. At $60 a share, that would equal $120. But since only $105 was due in taxes, subtract that from the $120 and you'd get $15 back through your paycheck. With 2 shares going toward taxes, the remaining 3 shares are deposited into your Fidelity account. Just remember that if you hold your shares, the value in your account may go up or down depending on Starbucks stock price. But for the sake of this example, we'll keep them at $60 to keep it easy. Therefore, the value of your Fidelity account would be $180. Hooray! Okay, there you go. So now the big question, what to do with your shares? The answer? Coming up next. Okay, so now you got a beanstalk grant. It vested. Now what? Once your beanstalk vests, you become a Starbucks shareholder. That's why we're called partners. Of course, once you become a shareholder, you'll have the option to hold or sell your shares at any time. But how exactly does that work? Let's go through the steps, shall we? After your beanstalk vests, you'll see the net shares, or shares after taxes, deposited to your Fidelity account. The taxable income and taxes withheld, as applicable, will be reported on your pay statement. If you choose to sell your shares for cash, you can do this online at netbenefits.com. Here are a couple of tips about selling shares. To find and sell the shares you own from your vested Bean stock, log into your Fidelity account. U.S. partners go to the section labeled Individual, and for partners outside the U.S., go to Stock Plan account. When you sell shares, you'll need to set up instructions with Fidelity on how you want to receive your cash from the sale, through a bank wire or by check, and in U.S. dollars or another currency. If you do it in advance of selling, you won't have to wait as long to receive funds. And lastly, once you put in your order to sell shares, it usually takes a few days before funds are deposited to your account. Be aware that if you are required to file an annual tax return in your country, you may owe capital gains tax if you sell your shares for more than they were worth when they vested. So, what do you think? Feel like a financial wizard now? In the next video, we'll explain what your Fidelity account is and how to use it. See you then! Well, hello again! You made it! The final step in becoming completely Beanstalk savvy. You've heard about your Fidelity account, so now we'll go over exactly what that is. Fidelity is our service provider for Starbucks stock plans. When you receive your first Beanstalk grant, you're automatically set up with a Fidelity account and will need to log in to netbenefits.com. The first time you go to the site, you'll need to activate your account. Partners in the U.S. will need to enter their legal name, date of birth, and the last 4 digits of their Social Security number. Partners outside of the U.S. will need a Fidelity participant number, which begins with an I, your partner number, and date of birth. Starbucks will provide the Fidelity participant number when you receive notice of your Beanstalk grant. For a step-by-step guide on activating your Fidelity account, accepting your grant, and selling shares, visit the Resources section on StarbucksBeanstalk.com. Still feel a little unsure of what to do? No worries! Fidelity representatives are remarkably friendly and helpful. They can answer almost any questions you may have, and they can speak to you in many different languages. Log in at any time to check the value of your Beanstalk. Thanks for joining us! We want you to get the most out of your Beanstalk, so if you still have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to your manager or partner resources. After all, success is best when shared. As a final thought, I'll leave you with this old Starbucks saying, "As the sun sets, may your Beanstalk rise." Okay, I made that up, but it still sounds nice.
Những video mà chúng ta vừa xem chính là một cách mà Starbucks hỗ trợ cho nhân viên của họ. Tất cả đều có trên website starbucksbeanstalk.com. Về phương thức thu hút nhân viên của Starbucks, họ tạo dựng mối quan hệ gắn bó giữa nhân viên và công ty. Họ gọi nhân viên là các đối tác, ngay cả nhân viên bán thời gian cũng có thể sở hữu cổ phiếu của công ty. Beanstalk là phương thức thu hút khách hàng dưới hình thức chương trình trợ cấp cổ phiếu cho nhân viên. Về phương thức tương tác với khách hàng của Starbucks, đó là các ứng dụng trực tuyến qua Internet. Fidelity là nhà cung cấp dịch vụ chứng khoán chuyên dụng của Starbucks cho Beanstalk. Fidelity cung cấp một loạt các lợi ích và dịch vụ giúp nhân viên dễ dàng truy cập vào thông tin gói mua hàng của mình. Ứng dụng Fidelity có thể tải một cách dễ dàng qua Internet. Ngoài ra, Starbucks còn có giao diện Internet của công ty, hay còn gọi là website, với tên đầy đủ là starbucksbeanstalk.com, với các thông tin kèm video giới thiệu cho người truy cập. Starbucks chính là ví dụ điển hình cho việc liên kết trải nghiệm khách hàng cho nhân viên, và điều này đem lại danh tiếng cho công ty. Starbucks liên tục đứng đầu bảng xếp hạng về dịch vụ chăm sóc khách hàng, và hơn 87% khách hàng tin rằng đó là nhờ cách công ty đối xử với nhân viên. Starbucks đã tiến xa hơn khi chia sẻ một phần cổ phần của mình với nhân viên của mình thông qua chương trình Beanstalk.